These are the examples for Algebra 1A, Credit 3, Lesson 5.1. In Lesson 5.1, we're going to be determining, first of all, from an equation, and then in the second part, from a graph, whether an equation the graph would be linear or not. Notice in the word linear, the root word for linear is line. And so what we mean by a linear equation or function, it's a function or equation whose graph would be a straight line. And again, we're not going to graph these, at least not yet, but we're just going to identify that from the equation. All right, so there's two rules that we're going to be concerned with. Rule number one, no variables in the denominator. Remember, the denominator is the bottom part of a fraction. So denominator. So we can have no variables in the denominator and no exponents on the variables except one. If we pass both of those tests, then we're going to say yes, the graph would be a line. In other words, it's a linear function. If it fails either test, then we're going to say no, it's not a linear function. All right, looking at our first example, our first equation up here, we have 2 over x plus 5 equals y. And to this one, we're going to say no. And the reason we're saying no, it's not a linear function, is because we have a variable in the denominator. Remember, that's one of our, we'll call those no-nos here. We can have no variables in the denominator. And so because of that, this would not be a linear function. So if it fails the first test, we don't even need to worry about the second test because we already know that it will not be a linear function. All right, so now our second equation here, now there's no fractions here, so we're not even concerned with the first test because there is no denominator. Well, technically there would be a 1 here below these, but we're not going to worry about that since we see no fraction. We don't have to worry about the first test. The second test, no exponents on the variables except 1. Again, if the exponent is not written, we know it to be 1. Since those are the only exponents, 1s on both the x and the y, this would be a linear function, so we're going to say yes. Our next example, again, no fraction here, so nothing to worry about for a denominator. Our second test, notice here there is no exponent written on the y, so we know it's a 1, but look at the x. There is an exponent of 2, and because of that, we're going to say no, this would not be a linear function. And again, that's because of the exponent other than 1 here on the x. Finally, looking at our last equation here, both the x and the y do not have an exponent written, so we know the exponent to be 1. Again, there's no fraction, so we don't have to worry about a denominator. And again, since both the exponents were unwritten, which means we know that they're 1, that passes the second test, and we would say, yes, this is a linear function. So those are the examples for problems 1 through 4. Now, the next section is labeled as problems 5 through 8, and we're going to write this as examples 5 through 8. But in the current edition of the packets, and this is being recorded in September of 2025, so if you are working on the packets right now, you probably have a packet where it says 5 through 8, tell whether each function is linear or not, answer yes or no. And then they're numbered 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's an error in the numbering. So we're just going to treat these as 5, 6, 7, and 8 as it says in the directions. Hopefully, if you're watching in future years, that should be corrected. So this is for the second part of lesson 5.1, the telling whether a function is linear just looking at the graph. And for this one, we're going to do a couple examples for linear and then a couple examples for not linear. So again, linear, the root word for linear is line. And so if the graph is a straight line, any kind of straight line except a vertical line, this would be a linear function. Well, even a vertical line, let's back up here. So even a vertical line would be linear, but that's getting into whether it's a function or not. So for right now, we're just going to say that if the graph is a line, we would call that a linear equation. And so any kind of line going down from left to right, going up from left to right, or even horizontal, that would be linear. Now, some of this may seem kind of obvious and like, well, is there more to it than this? And actually, no, we're just determining from the graph whether it's a line or not. Now, what are some examples of nonlinear functions, or ones that we would say no to? So before we get into that, just real quick, so if the graphs look anything like this, we would say yes. So yes to this one, yes to this one, yes to this one. Now, some nonlinear graphs, make that a little bit neater. Let's say that we had a parabola, whether it's opening up, opening down, opening sideways. That would not be linear because obviously this is curved, and so that's why it's not a line, so that would not be linear. A couple other examples might be something like this. And what I want to point out, and I believe in your packet, the actual graph part is highlighted. We'll just do it here in a different color. We'll put this one on a coordinate plane here because there's two parts to it. And so both of these are curved, so that would also be a no. So these are all no's here. And then the last one we're going to look at is the one that might potentially, you might think is a line, because you say, well, it's this part is straight, this part is straight. True, but the whole thing together does not make a line. And even looking at these individually, that's not a line because it goes on forever in one direction, but it stops here. But again, looking at the whole graph, that is not a line, doesn't look like this. And so for this one, we would also say no, that is not a linear equation or function. All right, so that is it, I believe, just double checking here. All right, so that's the examples for 5 through 8. Again, the numbering there is a little off if you're doing these problems in 2025. It does say 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully that'll be corrected for future years. But that's it for the examples for lesson 5.1. So good luck with the work, and do your best. Pause, rewind, review as needed. And again, good luck with the work. God bless, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.